Hi. Well, this is kind of a first for me, something I haven't actually tried to do before. Been thinking about it, but this is my first time ever attempting something like this. And, well, maybe if it works out very well, maybe I'll try to do some more. So, yesterday, I saw that Collider, a website I used to visit frequently for obvious reasons, has put up something called Doctor Who Every Doctor Ranked According to Reddit. Now, I don't know how much of this is actually according to Reddit and how much of this is just Collider making their own assumptions, as they usually tend to do, but I figured instead of just watching it and getting upset that they got it wrong again, why don't I just do a reaction to it and put it on my channel, because I can do that. And to do that, I am going to be using, hold on, this. There we go. Now I'm sharing the screen. Now I wish I knew how to do the thing where my picture is at the bottom, because kind of looks better that way. Hold on. Let me just try a few things. Oops, nope, that's not it. Well, never seen that one, but it's cool. Still, I much prefer. Oh, no. There we go. That's it. But now you can barely even see me. Hold on. Early days, ladies and gentlemen. Very early days. Okay, I think this might be the best course of action. And yes, you can see the background. I'm using previous StreamYard that I used already to do one of my shows, and on my other channel, another channel that I'm part of, called Northern Entertainment Group YouTube channel. Look them up. But yeah, hopefully this looks good. Okay, so this was 3 days ago. I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor, but you know what? Screw it. Let's just go with this. As long as people can hear me, that's really all that counts, I think. Nah, never mind. I think I made my mind up with this. So this was 3 days ago. I have not looked at it. I saw it only yesterday, and I have not checked this website out beyond just this image right here. This image of Tom Baker, Peter Capaldi, David Tennant's 14th Doctor, and Matt Smith. I've not checked out the rankings. I'm actually a little bit nervous to do so, but I think I've bored you guys enough time with the details. Let's just scroll down and see just how badly they got it wrong. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Well, I knew this was coming. Kind of knew this was coming. The 13th Doctor, not really very much favorited amongst Doctor Who fans. Upon revisiting her stuff, upon rewatching some of her episodes, I've actually grown to like Jodie Whittaker as a Doctor a little bit better. It's just the writing was not there. Episodes were kind of lackluster. Some moments, some good stuff in there, but overall, while her personality, I think, shown enough, there are some moments when you can just tell that they were trying to copy other doctors, or rather, she was trying to copy other doctors. There are a lot of moments for sure that she definitely let her personality come in, but the fact of the matter is, they've already been more than a dozen doctors at this point, so it's natural that she would be compared to some of her previous male counterparts, right? I definitely think there are moments where you can definitely tell that it's an original character decision that Jodie brought to the role, but a lot of the times it was just she was just emulating David Tennant, or she was just trying to be Capaldi, or she was just trying to be Tom Baker, you know. And again, like I said, the writing did not help. The writing, it's some of the worst written Doctor Who eras of all time, with some good moments in it, but just, it is what it is, and that's something that we're going to continue to discuss for years and years to come. But I have seen a lot of people online on various Facebook groups that I'm on that actually love Jodie Whittaker's doctor and think that she's their favorite doctor. I mean, I disagree, but I'm definitely not one of those people that just Jodie's the worst. No, there's, especially if you go Big Finish route, there's definitely worse doctors. And unfortunately, that's not really a good thing to be compared to, but she's definitely not bottom of the list. She's not bad. I don't dislike any other doctors except for maybe two Big Finish ones, but I don't dislike any doctor, especially not from the main ones, but Jodie's definitely not close to bottom of my personal favorites list. She's somewhere in the middle, leaning towards the bottom. But I think I've spent long enough time talking about Jodie Whittaker. 12. Yep, that's another one. That's another one I pretty much saw coming. Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor. I'm assuming whoever wrote this, or rather whoever aggregated this list, or the people on Reddit, I'm assuming whoever made that decision clearly has only seen the TV show and never even once bothered to check out Big Finish, the audio series. Because let me tell you, Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor, or Old Sixty as he calls him, he's amazing on Big Finish. He's like incredible. Like the differences between the TV show and the audios is not only night and day, it's like worlds apart. Like he is such a great doctor. If it wasn't for the TV stuff, he'd be in my top 5, like all time. He's such an amazing doctor on audio. He's great. He's always got the best scripts, the best written episodes. And there have been some episodes of Big Finish that I didn't like. I felt the writing was lazy, lackluster, and in some cases even bad. For Fifth Doctor, Seventh Doctor, and even, spoiler alert, my favorite Doctor, the 10th Doctor. I even felt like some of his Big Finish episodes weren't the best written. Not a problem I've ever once seen for Colin Baker's Doctor. Every storyline was just amazing, incredible. And if it weren't for the fact that every great story kept getting overshadowed by the next, like, this is the Sixth Doctor we should have gotten. This is the Sixth Doctor we deserved. This is the writing that Colin Baker as an actor deserved. And even though he wasn't really a fan favorite when he was on the show, the BBC really did him dirty. And it's a very unfortunate set of circumstances, kind of a little bit like another Doctor we're about to talk about. But yeah, if you still think that Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor somehow belongs near the bottom, I highly, highly encourage you to go and check out the Sixth Doctor on audio. Like, he's amazing. He's got the best companions, best supporting characters, best recurring villains, and just all around great Doctor. And it's one of those rare occasions where, you know, the TV show actually brings him down, further down on my list. But I wouldn't quite say he's in the category of being a great Doctor, but he's a very, very good Doctor. That's it for the Sixth Doctor. Now let's see. Okay, now this I did not see coming, and I strongly, highly disagree. Like, First Doctor, not even in the top 10? That's BS. That is all around Collider getting it wrong again. Big, big nonsense. William Hartnell is amazing. William Hartnell is my favorite of the classic series Doctors and my third favorite Doctor. I knew I was going to get passionate about this. I knew I was setting myself up to getting this. I knew I was going to get passionate about this. And you know what? At least I wasn't unprepared for this. But yeah, William Hartnell is great. I mean, he's the original, you might say. He's the first. He set the precedent for what other Doctors should be. He is the gold well, I wouldn't say the gold standard, but he is what other Doctors should be measured up against. Like, he started this show. And I can't believe I earlier today I rewatched An Adventure in Space and Time, and I still love it. It's my sorry to Day of the Doctor fans. This is the 50th anniversary special that we were promised. This is the fifth. This is my favorite 50th anniversary special, and you know what? It's my favorite anniversary special. More than the Three Doctors, more than the Five Doctors, more than Zagreus, and the less said about Dimensions in Time, the better. But An Adventure in Space and Time is just amazing. And even though it wasn't technically Hartnell there, it's David Bradley, who I'm judging by the numbers, I'm assuming he isn't even on this list, and he should be because he's great. I know we only get him as the first Doctor on a few occasions and mostly on Big Finish, but he's great. But William Hartnell's better. Like William Hartnell, and I guess I can kind of understand some people's points. He's very unlikable in the beginning, very standoffish, very like I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, a bit of a douche in his first few episodes, but he grows and he's got the biggest character change of all the Doctors from his first episode to his final episode, but to the point where by the time he regenerated, I was in tears. I was crying. And speaking of tears, Susan's departure. It's a character that I don't even like. Susan. I'm not a big fan of Susan, but that scene where he locks her up out of the TARDIS and gives that speech about maybe someday coming back, which on the TV show side he never did, but that speech, I'm in tears every time. And just, while he didn't really always have the best companions, Stephen Taylor and Dodo Chaplet, just to name a few, he had Ian and Barbara, the gold standard of companions. Not the best companions, but what all companions should strive to be. And yeah, just really good storylines. Unfortunately, a lot of missing episodes, not as many as his immediate successor, but some of the best, some of my favorite individual episodes. And just it was at a time when there wasn't this big, massive lore and canon and continuity to worry about. They were just making episodes just to survive, just to make this show. And I think some of the best episodes came out of that era. And it kind of sucks that he's this low on the list. I definitely put him way higher. He's my top 3. He's my third favorite. But I mean, people be people, I suppose. Let's move on. Let's to the top 10. Okay, Fifth Doctor, Peter Davison at number 10. I can see that. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Peter Davison. Like, he seems to be inexplicably popular with a lot of people. I mean, he's not bad. As I said before, I don't dislike, not even hate, I don't dislike any of the Doctors. Like, I love them all. Just, I happen to love some more than others. But Peter Davison's definitely lower on my list. And it's not his fault. It's just, I think the way the character was written a lot of the times, where a lot of the times he just made a bad situation worse. And that was kind of the appeal of the character. They tried to humanize him a little bit more, if you catch my meaning. They tried to make him a bit more human. Hold on, let me just get rid of the background. It's kind of distracting me. And part of the humanization of his character was that he made a lot of mistakes. And just, trying to save people, he endangered them. Or, like, there's that scene from one of my favorite episodes, Enlightenment, where Captain Rack just is focusing the super weapon from a jewel. It's been a while since I've seen it, but she's focusing all her energy, mental energy, on this jewel that's going to blow up. And the Fifth Doctor thinks that only way to stop it from blowing up is to smash the crystal into 1,000 pieces, which in turn just amplifies her power. Instead of just blowing up the one crystal, now he's got to contend with all these thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of the crystal that are gonna make an even bigger explosion. So yeah, so he does have his moments of just making a bad situation worse, but I think he's one of those doctors that is helped by Big Finish. Big Finish did help. He was closer to the bottom of my list, but he's sort of been elevated slightly by the Big Finish audios. He's one of those doctors that had the some of the lackluster episodes on Big Finish. He's got a few good companions on Big Finish, and a lot of bad ones. Well, yeah, not a lot, but I mean, everyone remembers Turlo, who's bad on the TV show, and this Big Finish. Well, they don't make him worse; they just keep him as bad as he was on the TV show. And of course, everyone remembers Chameleon. Yikes! And of course, Adric, and yeah, if we're going into Big Finish realm, Thomas Brewster. Anyone? So yeah, he didn't really always have the best companions. He's got some good ones, but just like his stories, while a lot of my favorites are from his era, like Black Orchid and what else? I mentioned Enlightenment, and even the Five Doctors, I would contend. But yeah, it's a very mixed bag, Doctor. Let's move on. Okay, this I do not agree with at all. And yeah, look, funny. We made put the Ninth Doctor in ninth place. Haha, get it? It's funny. Just like we put the 13th Doctor in 13th place because it matches. I don't know if that was the intention behind it, but like Eccleston deserves better. And you can say that about a lot of things, but especially when Doctor Who is concerned, the guy only had one season to work with. Okay, give the guy a break. And not only that, his one season is still considered to this day one of the best seasons of Doctor Who of all time. Like I watched it recently, fairly recently, I should say, but I don't think there's a bad episode in there. Like maybe there's like a couple that weren't as good as the rest, but I don't think there's a bad one there. And the main reason people just gravitated to the new series, to the modern Who, we do not get the David Tennants and the Matt Smiths of the world if this guy right here, Christopher Eccleston, didn't get the ball rolling, didn't set everything in motion. Without his first season, we do not have Doctor Who today. They tried to revive it multiple times, one of which happens to be with a doctor that we're about to talk about, I'm assuming pretty soon, but he made it happen. Like there was a lot of attempts to bring the show back. His was the one successful one. And of course, behind the scenes drama caused him to vacate the role pretty soon. It's unfortunate, and I get that. I mean, it took years and years and years before we finally got him back on Big Finish. And I've only just listened to one of his box sets so far. It's good. It's really, really good. Like, he has not missed a step. He's still the Doctor. He stepped right back into his shoes like he walked off set yesterday. And he's still going strong on Big Finish. I really need to get back on the Big Finish train and listen to some of his stuff. But just him as the Doctor, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, definitely deserves more than ninth place. Let's move on. Yep, this is the one. They did it again. Haha! We put the ninth Doctor in ninth place, and we put the eighth Doctor in eighth place. Haha! Get it? Honestly, I was expecting Eccleston to be higher on the list than Paul McGann. Like, considering what we went through a couple of entries ago with Colin Baker, like, and maybe I should like read some of these, but doesn't really look like anyone's checked out Big Finish. Let's see. Seemingly, the only dislike the Doctor was Colin Baker, which may be why he was only in 2 seasons, or his dislike because he was only in 2 seasons and people didn't have time to warm up to him. Whichever it is, he was only ranked better than Jodie Whittaker since some people placed him higher than her. So again, it's just aggregating Reddit, and like, why would you even do that as opposed to making a list yourself? As for the explanation, but why Baker wasn't liked, no one seemed to give a specific reason because no one listened to Big Finish apparently. Whoever this guy is said hateable in the original series and becomes more interesting in the audio dramas. It seems the actor's performance ranked uh, audio performances. See, that's what I'm talking about. If people just took the time and unfortunately took the money to listen to Big Finish, Sixth Doctor is amazing, better than Paul McGann, I would argue. And I haven't listened to all of Paul McGann's stuff. He's great on Big Finish, but just Cullen Baker's better. And let's see what. Despite being featured only in a TV special, Paul McGann made his way to many top fives, who some even with some even putting him first. I can see that. I can understand that. He appeared as the Eighth Doctor in the Doctor Who movie, and blah, blah, blah. This was a television movie made for as the first attempt to revive the franchise, which failed until this guy came along. Just repeating my points here. Again, the user blah 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 who gave the most elaborate explanations for their choices said he's fun in the movie and you can't take your eyes off him in the Night of the Doctor. That's true, but there's too many versions of him and not enough screen time. Well, I get that. Like, Eighth Doctor is arguably the most complicated of all the Doctors because, like, there's several different versions of him. There's the movie version, obviously. There's him in the novels. There's him in the comics, and then there's him on Big Finish. And just like so many different storylines that just overlap, and none of them seem to really fit in with each other. Least of all, not fitting in with the show. But I mean, Paul McGann is really great. He's funny. He's one of the funniest Doctors, and you don't really get that much on the TV movie and Night of the Doctor and Power of the Doctor, I suppose. Well, yes, but yeah, you do get that moment of him arguing with Sylvester McCoy, and is like, "I don't do robes. I'm a manifestation of my consciousness, our consciousness. I can wear what I like." And you kind of get that also in Night of the Doctor, when he's like, "You've got little under 4 minutes to live. 4 minutes? That's ages. What if I get bored?" So yeah, he's funny. He's very, very funny, especially on audio because he does actually get to act a little bit more. Unfortunately, his storylines on Big Finish do seem to be very repetitive. He's one of those Doctors that just has his memory wiped, like on a consistent basis, to a point where it's like it's become an in joke amongst the fandom. It's like, how is he going to forget everything this time? Like in every few storylines, he just loses his memory and has to reconstruct everything he knows about himself from scratch. But yeah, I mean, I think he should probably be a top 10 Doctor. I can't remember where I ranked him on my personal favorites, but he's a good Doctor. Just, unfortunately, not a lot of screen time. Lots of audio time. But again, from what I've been able to listen to, this guy's much better on audio. So let's move on. If they do this again and put the Seventh Doctor in 7th place, I'm gonna freaking riot. And there we go. They did it again. They put the 7th Doctor in 7th place because, oh my goodness, who made this? Who made this list? I mean, seriously. I suppose I haven't really done that for any of the other ones. Maybe I should read the thing. Maybe I should start reading them. Sylvester McCoy's name didn't come up too many top 5 for Redditors, but he sits cozily in the middle as the 7th Doctor. Many have voted him as the best because he brought out a cunning and playful side in Doctor Who. He gave a fantastic performance that made TV fun for them. McCoy's talent is unquestionable, but the reason he sits in the middle was explained by this person. If I were randomly to take an episode from their run, I'd likely find it to be enjoyable, but not always memorable. Well, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, didn't really have the best episodes per season. Not really one of my favorite doctors personally, mainly because it's kind of a doctor with a split personality. When you really think about it, like seriously, there's two versions of his doctor. There's the comedic slapstick clown from the early seasons, and then there's the calculating, mischievous master manipulator from his final season, which is even felt in Big Finish. Like whenever you see like early McCoy with this jacket right here, the white jacket, early McCoy with Melanie, he is that slapstick comedic clown on the TV show and on Big Finish audios. Whenever he did the switch to the brown jacket, the darker jacket, I think he also changed the hat, if I remember correctly, and just moves into the master manipulator, using people as pieces on a chessboard, and just becoming like bit of an asshole. Is one way of putting it. Like the way he treats Ace, sometimes the way he treats some of the other companions, and just like the complete lack of humanity that his doctor displayed in some of the later storylines in his run, just encapsulates why I don't really like this doctor as much. I love the comedic side of him. I love the slapstick comedy and him playing with spoons and emphasizing the R's and all of that. Not a big fan of the master manipulator side of him and how he treats other people, which is ironic because that's people's favorite side of him. People did not like the comedic side of him, which I loved, and that's why the showrunners went in a completely different direction, which people really liked, but unfortunately, the ratings just could. The show just got canceled before they can just continue on that trend. He was supposed to go on for one more season. I know that. He signed off on a fourth season, which never happened because the show got canceled, which sucks. It's unfortunate. Uh, but yeah, I'd say middle of the road fits him pretty well. But yeah, not really much to say. I definitely would put Eccleston way above him, and I definitely put McGann above Sylvester. Probably not Davison. Definitely Hartnell, and definitely Colin. And I'm not 100% sure of whether or not I put Jodie Whittaker above Sylvester McCoy in my rankings, but to each his own. Now, since the Sixth Doctor and Fifth Doctor are already taken, and they're sure as hell not going to put the Fourth Doctor this low, this is pretty interesting. This is exciting. Let's see who came out in sixth place. Pertwee. Wow. He's my fourth favorite Doctor. It's kind of a weird thing where my fourth favorite is the third Doctor, and my fifth favorite is the fourth Doctor. That's kind of a weird mix up there, but John Pertwee's really, really good. I mean, he's on my top five. I definitely think he deserves higher than number six. At least crack the top five, which kind of makes me wonder who did make it into the top five. Let's see what people say about him. In sixth place is the third Doctor, John Pertwee. More than half of the participants in the threads put him high on their lists, saying his performance as the Doctor was consistent and wildly entertaining. The user, whatever that hell that is, said he was the Doctor most likely to kick someone in the face. Definitely true. And the user, whatever this is, elaborated in more words, he could be either rude and bitter or very gentle. And with him came some of the more thought-provoking stories. Definitely true. Very thought-provoking stories. He was an action hero. He was James Bond in a Doctor Who show, which I think he also was roommates with Ian Fleming back in the day, or something. I think I read something like that on a Doctor Who magazine, an old Doctor Who magazine issue once. But yeah, he's really, really good. He's a very action-orientated Doctor, and a huge departure from his predecessor, which unfortunately now I can pretty much tell he's going to be further on the list. But I mean, the differences between the second Doctor and the third Doctor are almost astronomical, to the point where the second Doctor shows up in the Three Doctors, You see these two guys side by side, and you're like, how are these two the same character? Like seriously, how did this become this? And just it's astonishing. It's such a big departure from one Doctor to the next, between the second Doctor, third Doctor, and the fourth Doctor. It's not really felt as much today. And already mentioned earlier with Whitaker, where a lot of the times she was just trying to be other doctors who came before her. This guy did not. This guy was just complete polar opposite from Patrick Troughton, and even on a smaller scale, almost nothing like William Hartnell. And that really encapsulates the fact that each doctor brings something new and different into the table. Like, and that's really something that I loved so much about the classic Doctor Who, is that you can tell every single doctor was different from the one that came before him and the one who will come after him. And this doctor, I think, encapsulated it better than any of the other ones. But I don't know. I guess, unfortunately, he suffers from most of his adventures being earthbound because of his exile. A lot of his episodes take place on Earth, and with a few instances of him traveling in space and time. But I mean, his era is one of my favorites, mainly because of the earthbound nature and the over reliance on Unit, and just him and the Brigadier are just chef's kiss, priceless. Him and Joe Grant, amazing. Him and Sarah Jane Smith, my favorite companion, the best companion. Fight me on this, but him and just he's one of the best. It definitely deserves to be in the top 5 and definitely much higher than number 6. But moving on, I think I know who's going to be top 5. Let's see. There we go. There he is, the second Doctor. I guess I probably should have made that prediction to say it on camera so that people will believe me. But yeah, the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, definitely, in my opinion, does not deserve to be that high. And I'm going to be brutally honest here. I don't even think he deserves to be in the top 10. Seriously. More than half the writers called Patrick Troughton one of the best doctors of all time. His portrayal of the Time Lord was, in short, described as the original cosmic hobo by this guy. His style of playing the Doctor influenced how the more recent actors portrayed the character. Out of many explanations, the one given by this person, I think we've already seen this username, says it all. Like somebody straight out of Dr. Seuss or Alice in Wonderland, and it's safe to say pretty much every Doctor since has been inspired by him one way or the other or another. True, a lot of the staples of what the Doctor is today came from this guy. A lot of like the mannerisms and elements of Doctor Who that we've come to realize, to recognize and love, came in his era. He was the one that brought it into to the show. Case in point, the sonic screwdriver. He introduced the sonic screwdriver. Jelly babies. It all came from him. Bow ties. Look at this. Bow ties are cool because before Matt Smith popularized the idea of bow ties, he did it before it was cool. He was wearing bow ties long before it was cool. And just the personality of the Doctor and the more comedic nature and the kind-heartedness of this ancient Time Lord, a lot of it came from him. And in a way, it's kind of the manipulator nature of Sylvester McCoy. That also kind of started with Patrick Troughton. A lot of the mannerisms did came from him. I just think other Doctors did it better. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. Like, looking at him in a row with all the other Doctors, he really does look like the odd one out. Like, I mentioned earlier that it's hard to picture that this guy and this guy are the same character. It's kind of hard to picture this guy in the same pantheon as all the other Doctors, in a way. And I still do put him above some of the other non-TV Doctors, but he's just, it's a Doctor that I like his episodes and his individual stories better than I like the Doctor himself, if that makes sense. Like, I love Tomb of the Cybermen. I love The Mind Robber. I love the War Games. I love The Invasion. I love I don't know, the Crotons, sue me. I love the Underwater Menace, as goofy as it is, and just I love the Enemy of the World. Sorry, I hit my mic. I love so much of the Second Doctor's stories, just not necessarily the Second Doctor in them. That's just me. But I mean, he definitely had some of the one of the best companions ever, James Robert McCrimmon. Uh, but other than that, very fairly middle of the road companions. Not great, but definitely not terrible. And I just got a message. Deal with that. But yeah, very much middle of the road Doctor, and actually below top 10. Unfortunately, measuring all the other Doctors that haven't been picked out yet, I have a feeling I'm going to really, really enjoy the rest of this list. Now, oh, I swear, if they do this again, I'm seriously considering ending the recording here. Okay, they did not do it again, but this makes me furious. Hold on, let me just. There we go. I should probably silence my phone on as well. Give me just a second. There we go. No more interruptions. The 10th Doctor at number 4. The 10th Doctor at number 4. I just gotta. Uh, I just gotta read this. Surprisingly, the legendary David Tennant isn't in the top 3 for most Redditors. Although he was voted as the best Doctor of all time by the Scottish Daily Express, well, Scottish, obviously, the reason Tennant made his way to the top 4 is his charm. There is no denying that the actor possesses incredible charisma. His high ranking was also perfectly summed up by the user, this guy. The one I grew up with. Fantastic emotional range, if a bit much sometimes. Not enough, in my opinion. Always a joy to watch, even in poor episodes. Tennant's episodes rank among the most memorable. So why isn't he number 1? Seriously, why isn't he number 1? What the hell? Like, maybe it's just bias because he's my favorite Doctor. He's also my first. But just like, even if he wasn't my first, he's the best. He is the Doctor, no matter how much you try to argue against it. And just in recent years, I've seen so many people just go off the rails of just how much they dislike David Tennant's Doctor, and I don't understand why. Like, there was a time when he was considered the best Doctor. Still, by many people, he's still considered the best Doctor of all time. But now, more and more, I'm seeing on more and more Facebook groups, people just putting him at the bottom of the list. And honestly, I do not get that. I do not understand where did all this David Tennant hate came from. Like, why? Even if he's not okay, so even if he's not the best, not number 1, why are so many people putting David Tennant at the bottom of their list? I do not understand that. If someone can explain that to me, I would very much like that. But like, again, maybe there's some recency bias, but concerning what happened at the end of Power of the Doctor. But I think it's wrong to judge his portrayal of the 10th Doctor based on that. But I don't know. This is the most shocking upset for me, and seriously considering not ever doing this again. But let's see who made it to number 3. The 11th Doctor, Matt Smith. I think I can pretty much tell who's going to end up being number 1. But let's see. The majority of voters said Matt Smith was the best Doctor. Some claim he embodied the role so well. He is the Doctor. Certainly, some roles are more suited to specific actors, and it seems everything came together when Matt Smith arrived. Some people didn't consider him the best, more like overly goofy, but those comments were overshadowed by the positives. Happy for that. This user described him pretty well, funny and likable. Matt plays the old man trapped in an immature young man's body so well. Yeah, I mean, he did. He is pretty much that. He is the best example of the old man in a younger body. And during his run, there were a lot of times where I honestly felt like he could overshadow David Tennant as my favorite. He did not. He still doesn't. And I've recently watched most of his run again, and like he's good. He's great. He's my number two. David Tennant's my number one. Matt Smith's my number two. Doesn't deserve to be higher on the list than David Tennant. Like I understand putting him at number three, but again, above this guy, no way. No chance in hell. And don't get me wrong, he's great. I love him. A lot of the times I feel like Stephen Moffat tried to make him like the previous doctors, just shoving lines from previous doctors into his dialogue for no reason at all. Wasn't even deserved the story, wasn't even funny. It just him just, sprinkling some classic series dialogue into Matt Smith's script, regardless of how much whether or not it made sense. But I mean, he's really good. But this again, just like this description right here, doesn't really show why David Tennant didn't make it to number one. This description right here doesn't even explain why Matt Smith made it to number three. But let me see. Let's see if I was right. Okay, I was wrong. I honestly believed Tom Baker would have been number one for a lot of people. Anyone looking at the polls will notice one name on top, Tom Baker. Although Troughton paved the way performance-wise, Tom Baker solidified the character as the perfect blend of silliness and seriousness. That's true. His portrayal defined the old era of Doctor Who. This user described it pretty well with this. In general, I think the new Who Doctors are definite improvements over the classic Doctors, barring Tom Baker, of course. Who's, well, Tom Baker. I mean, he is. His performance was memorable, yet only slightly overshadowed by one other actor. I think we all know at this point who that other actor is, but I mean, Tom Baker made that role what it is, still to this day. Even people who don't know Doctor Who recognize Tom Baker. Like, he is arguably the most recognizable Doctor of all time. Like, he shows up in The Simpsons. He shows up in Futurama. He shows up, I think, in the Shaun the Sheep movies. Like, for a lot of people, you hear the name Doctor Who, you think of Tom Baker. He is the Doctor. He lasted the longest on television. 7 seasons. Think about how many shows you know and love don't even make it to 7 seasons. He played the same character for 7 seasons on a show that lasted for 26 seasons originally. Right now it's on 39. But, like, he is the Doctor and definitely deserves a high spot on the list. Just, he's definitely not above Matt Smith to me, definitely not above David Tennant, because even though he is arguably the best Doctor, a lot of his episodes are just... Because that's really the problem you run into when you're playing the same character for so long. Like, some of the best episodes of Doctor Who of all time came from the Tom Baker era. And also, a lot of the mid-era, well, he had some of the best companions, obviously, with Sarah Jane and Leela and Romana, both Romanas, K9, obviously. Stories, it's all about the stories. A lot of the times, like, a lot of his episodes towards the middle of his run were giant snooze fests. I could not tell you what happens in Nightmare of Eden with a gun to my head. Like, Horns of Nimon, not very memorable. Destiny of the Daleks wasn't really all that good either. Underworld, again, not a particularly high point in the Fourth Doctor's era. Uh, but I love the Key to Time stuff. I love the Invasion of Time, and just I love the Deadly Assassin, Genesis of the Daleks. I don't know, the Sontaran Experiment. Like, so many great episodes came from the Tom Baker era, but so many of the boring, lackluster ones as well. So that's why he's not on part of my one of my favorites. And then obviously, I mean, if you want to look at some expanded Doctor Who lore, there's also the Nest Cottage Chronicles, which I finished yesterday for the first time, and yeah, definitely recommend looking them up, but just don't expect too much from that. But yeah, Tom Baker, great Doctor. The different article, you might say, but just not the best, because apparently, according to a lot of people on Reddit, the best is Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor. And yeah, this picture right here just reminded me of why he's not my number one. But upon Matt Smith's departure, Peter Capaldi seemed like a less popular choice. That was true at the time. Right after the young and charming Smith came this older and more distinguished actor with a long career behind him. The initial expectations were that he'd flop, but that changed quickly, not as quickly as I would have liked. Now voters have decided Peter Capaldi is the best Doctor of all time. Their reason was his delivery of a strong character capable of development and change, which Hartnell already did 50 years ago, but that seems to escape people's mind. In his hands, the Doctor went from a grumpy old man to someone kind. Again, William Hartnell did this 50 years ago. Why is Capaldi number one and Hartnell isn't even in the top 10? What's the deal? As this person said, not sure I'll ever get over Capaldi's leaving, to be honest. Again, like, Capaldi, in so many ways, more than one, is just a carbon copy of William Hartnell, but in the modern era. Case in point, he was literally the same age as William Hartnell was when he was cast. His character arc is note for note, beat for beat, the same. The grumpy old man who likes to distance himself from other people, learning to become a kind, gentle, heartwarming grandfather of sorts. And to hammer the point home, he literally had his final episode was literally him meeting the first Doctor. And just the similarities between the two never stopped. So why is Hartnell not even number 10, but Capaldi's number 1? And I love Capaldi. Like, he's sort of in a battle for the number 6 place. Like, usually, I said earlier that my number 1 is David Tennant, my number 2 is Matt Smith, number 3 is William Hartnell, number 3 is John Pertwee, number 4, and number 5 is Tom Baker. The number 6 position is sort of a tug of war between Capaldi and John Hurt, which wasn't even on this list. Shame on you, but yeah, Capaldi's great. It's just his first season really drags him down. Like I said earlier, that the TV run of Colin Baker really drags him down the bottom towards the middle of the list. Like, if he didn't have that first season, he'd be in my top 5 probably. But his TV run really drags. It's the same with Capaldi in his first season, which I personally consider to be one of the worst seasons of the show of all time. And yes, partially, part of it, hold on, let me just find the image. Partially it's because of this character right here. Like, if Stephen Moffat wasn't done shoving this character down people's throats enough in Matt Smith's final season, he really went overboard with Capaldi's first season, to the point where it just became the Clara Oswald show. The Doctor was just an afterthought. He was a guest star in his own show. Like, she got top billing in one of the episodes. Instead of showing Capaldi's face in the opening credits, they showed Clara's face. And I get it, it was for a gag, for a gimmick, which didn't even work in the episode that they were trying to tell it in the first place. But, like, really? You had to go that far. And there was that one episode where the Doctor inside the TARDIS just became this tiny, minuscule thing. Hold on, where is it? Yeah, the Doctor was a little tiny thing that Clara Oswald can just shove into her bag and carry him around while she's out there pretending to be the Doctor badly and failing at it miserably, and just and then obviously, and still in the same season, by the way, the episode where he left Clara on the moon to decide whether or not they should blow up the moon or not. That was horrible. And the episode where with the Dalek, Rusty, the Dalek, and just so his first season had so much bad stuff in it, which is weird because his next season is what I consider one of the best seasons of all time. If it wasn't for that stupid finale, which again was just a massive Clara fest, just Stephen Moffat showing us how uh, the Doctor is not necessary. The Doctor is an incompetent fool. It's really Clara who should be the star of the show, and that was his vendetta to just show everyone that hey, the Doctor is pointless. The Doctor is useless. It's Clara, people. Clara needs to be the main character of the show, and I was so happy when they finally wrote her out of the season, and then she finally came back again, and then they wrote her, and then she decided to leave again, like at the end of what was it, Death in Heaven. She leaves. Great, finally, we're finally rid of her. Then she comes back for the Christmas special, but no, she's an old woman. Now she's gonna die. Oh wait, no, that was a dream. She's back, and she's back traveling with the Doctor for another season, and then she dies, and then no, she comes back, and then she leaves finally for good, and then she shows up again at the finale in Peter Capaldi's last episode, and it's just just get it over with. Just get this character out of the franchise already. And it just Stephen Moffat refusing to let go of that character that he created. But that aside, Capaldi's great. Like his Zygon speech alone earns him a spot in the top 6 of Doctors. That Zygon speech alone. What was it? Heaven Sent. One of the best episodes of Doctor Who of all time. Easily, by far, by a huge margin. Not my favorite, but one of the best, definitely. He's got one of the best looking TARDISes, one of the best companions ever, Nardole, one of the best masters of all time. Just saying. But just, that first season was a drag. And I cannot tell you how many people I know personally dropped off the show after the season 1. Like so many of my friends, I had to beg them to come back to the show once his second season came along. Like so many people just dropped off after series 8. They were just so badly burned by how bad that season was, and it left such a bad taste in their mouths that I had to convince people that no, his second season was good. It's one of the best seasons ever. Please come back and watch the show. And you know what? I've been saying for years that Clara Oswald is the worst character ever in the history of the franchise. People thought I was a lunatic. People thought I was crazy for even suggesting that. Then they saw Series 8, and they just turned around and told me, hey, listen, man, you were right. I'm sorry for doubting you. I'm sorry for making fun of you. You were right. And then they came back and did it again with Capaldi's second season. They were like, no, you're right. The last season was garbage, but this season's amazing. And Capaldi's great in his second season. Capaldi is really a great Doctor. Just, not number one. Not for me, but he is number one for a lot of other people. And you know what? I accept that. If it was, say, it's going to take a while to scroll back up. If it was Patrick Troughton as the number one, I would have had some issues. But even though I have some issues with Capaldi taking the number one spot, I gotta be honest and say, you know what? He is a really good Doctor. I cannot dispute that. I cannot argue with that. Just, not my favorite. But But yeah, that's it. So wow, I did it, and it only took a little under an hour for me to do so. Wow. But jokes aside, this was a lot of fun. I really did legitimately enjoy doing this. Not really something I can see myself doing again. Just I thought it was gonna be a fun, cool, like 15 to 20 minute video. Ended up lasting almost an hour. So not sure if I'll ever do something like this ever again. But I'm glad that I at least got to get that off my chest, because I've been seeing a lot of Collider ranking stuff for I don't know, MCU stuff or Doctor Who villains. I've seen a lot of I don't know, Pokemon stuff, and I just always had notes that I felt like I was just saying them in my head. So yeah, this format I like. I again not sure if I'll ever do this again, and maybe it's because it's Doctor Who themed that it took this long. Who knows? But yeah, I've definitely really enjoyed. And if you're still watching this, if you somehow made it all the way to the end, let me know in the comments below what your favorite doctors are and how you would rank those doctors on your list of top favorites. Um, Let me know if hold on, maybe I can find it. Let's see if I can find my ranking chart of my favorite doctors of all time. I think I have it here somewhere. Let me just upload it. There we go. There it is. Now I gotta warn you in advance. It's outdated. It's not. I gotta change some stuff around, but this is this is a list that I made about a year ago. As you can see, I've got David Tennant at number one, Matt Smith number two, uh, William Hart number three, John Pertwee number four, Tom Baker number five. Right now, I'd swap Capaldi with John Hurt because I finished John Hurt's Big Finish run that he did before he passed away. So yeah, John Hurt number six, then Capaldi number seven. I'd probably take Colin Baker and put him up here instead of Eccleston, and I'd probably change a lot of things around. I put McGann further up the list above McCoy, and maybe even put him over here. Definitely promote Davison a little bit forward, ahead of Troughton. Probably bring the Valliard to the forefront. Definitely put Peter Cushing like in the fine area. There's a lot of changes I would make to this list if I were to do it again today. But really, that just speaks to how um, this franchise is just so multifaceted, and one could never really um, uh, what's the word I'm even looking for? Yeah, it's always better on repeat viewing. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the more you rewatch, the more your opinions on the show change. And yeah, I think I've talked long enough. You'd think I know when to wrap this up, but I mean it's Doctor Who, so I can never really find. There's always more to say. So, in an effort not to make this a 2 hour video, I'm just gonna end it here. Let me know what you think about the Collider rankings for starters, and let me know what you think about my rankings of the Doctors, and let me, most importantly, know how you would rank all the Doctors if you were making a list like that. Thank you for watching, and allons-y.